If you're in the air, the property is hard to miss. 1,000 acres, wooded, rolling terrain, a river runs through it. And then you see the marks of history, the sandstone quarry pits. If you drive by, you won't much notice anything. Lots of brush. You could be anywhere. And if you're able to walk the property, well, when you walk up on 160 years of history, it'll make your knees shake. Today, the pits of quarries from days gone by are all that is left, and they're beautiful. Some views are breathtaking. But to really appreciate the ground you stand on, or the ground you fly over, or drive by, you must first understand its history.
The Cleveland Quarry is an operation is just about what established Amherst and the surrounding area on the map, as far as I'm concerned.
Fred Patterson is 74 years old. He spent 46 years of his life in the quarries. More than a half-century ago, Fred, not quite 18 years old, lied about his age so he could get a job on this property working on the quarry railroad crew. He later became a drill operator in the pits, ran a channel machine cutting stone, and eventually became general superintendent. He knows the property well.
The quarry formation is a little bit different here than it is in some places. It's kind of on top of the ground, and it was easy to get to, and the quality of stone is better here than it is maybe if you'd move a couple hundred miles or something.
In 1891, Delora Jones's grandfather moved to South Amherst from Switzerland to begin a 40-year career in the quarries.
In the beginning of times, like when my grandfather came here, all the people that came from Europe, Russia, all those countries, most of them were affiliated with some kind of quarry work where they came from. And when they came to this quarry, that's how they all settled here in town. And South Amherst was divided in that town. This end of town, the South Lake Street, was Italian people. The west part of town was, I think it was the German people, and the east end were English people. And the north end was Hungarian. It was funny, they all like settled in groups in the town.
The impact of the stone mined on this property was huge and is still relevant today, over 100 years later. Grindstones from these quarries are even on display at the Smithsonian Institute.
As we think about significance of sandstone from this region, the Great Fire of Chicago of 1871, much of Chicago was rebuilt with sandstone that was transported across the Great Lakes.
Jim Hieb is the author of this book, Sandstone Center of the World. A large portion of it is dedicated to this 1,000-acre property and these quarries.
In its heyday, over 2,000 men were employed quarrying sandstone from Lorain County. And that is significant when you think about industry affecting the lives of families throughout the region.
The quarries defined the family of Delora Jones. Her maiden name is Maury. There's a quarry hole here named after her uncle Paul, who was an executive vice president. Delora's father, Albert Jr., worked 60 years in the quarries. Her husband, Kenneth, worked for 50 years. He ran this crane, was a foreman in charge of this stone crusher, and both were superintendents. Her cousin was president of the company, and Delora worked here too.
Well, my first job was, I was 15. It was during when the war first started. They were making grindstones, or making knife sharpeners for the soldiers, and they had them in a garage over on Quarry Road at the house where the superintendent lived, and they would lay them out on the table in the daytime, and after school nights I would go and I'd put the stamp Cleveland Quarries on them. That was my first job that I did. The quarry was like, it was part of us. I mean, it was our life.
The life of the quarry properties that make up South Amherst Village, Amherst Township, and Brownhelm Township is ready to be reborn.
Yes, it will be a rebirth. It was zoned industrial up until about 2 years ago, and now they've seen the real value of that parcel of land. We have 1,000 acres of land out here that's virtually undisturbed since its industrial days. We have great vegetative growth, we have natural rock outcroppings, and we have the remnants of the history, the rich history of 100 years of quarrying operation that will be spectacular for development. And It's still evolving, but as I understand it, it's someplace between 1,000 and 1,100 residential, and there's a lodge. It's basically 20 miles of trails. There's an emphasis on an equestrian area, horseback riding, stables, and things like that for the horse lovers, and it's being sold with about 700 acres of undeveloped land that will be kept in a naturalized state. You buy a half an acre lot or a third of an acre lot, and with that you get full and complete access to 700 acres of other land. And it's a legacy that'll live on, and what a spectacular opportunity for Lorain County and the 3 communities.
So as you drive through the quaint little township of South Amherst, and you're reminded of another time, a day gone by, when you stop and notice the 1902 engraving in the bridge you cross on Quarry Road, think about the future and a new opportunity that doesn't leave the past behind, but embraces and enhances it.
South Amherst is a little podunk. I mean, it's really a dying town. There's nothing here to keep South Amherst going, and if they do that, maybe somehow it will help to make a rebirth of the town.
There has to be something happen, and the change is going to be great for the area, I think, and it's going to be a necessary thing, because like I said, you just don't take 1,000 acres of land close to big cities and don't do nothing to it.
When Fred Patterson stands on the land today and looks out into the quarries he once worked, he thinks about his life here, and he thinks about how it's all stacked up.
God comes first in my life, my family is second, and my job is third, so that's the way I rated this place. I was always proud of the quarries. Leaving the love of my life, I guess.